One of the most important things I learned as a king player is that the moment you land a chain throw, you guys stop playing Tekken. No matter how good your opponent is, they have to guess, and they have to guess correctly. And the guessing games don't stop during the chain throw. There's Okizeme situations to worry about, and on-break situations too. In the last chapter, we went over building your offense, and we found that there are some opportunities for you to squeeze in a chain throw. Now this time around, we're going to be focusing on the chain throws themselves. So for every chain throw, we're going to be focusing first on break properties. Then we're going to be moving on to on-hit Okizeme options. And lastly, if applicable, we'll talk about the chain throw strategies that you should keep in mind as a king player. Okay, wait, let's go back to number 2. There's something really important I need to talk about with Okizeme options. There's 9 different ways to get up in this game, and hundreds of moves per character. So if you do the math, that's a lot of different scenarios. So I made this chart to help simplify things a little bit. Yeah, it's still a lot, so here, let me explain. The first half of the graph is common options. That's going to be covered for every single chain throw. The bottom half is going to cover special options that change from chain throw to chain throw. The bottom half is high risk, but it's got some pretty interesting options. Now, the top right portion of the chart covers the opponent's options on getup. You can see that it's basically copied over from practice mode, and yeah, I mean, there's nothing much else to say about this. Something important to note is that this is all from face up, feet toward. These animations look slightly different for every single position that the opponent can be in. Alright, we got the headers down, now we need to talk about the results themselves. Here I made a legend for you guys. It's kind of the same legend from chapter 3, but there are some new additions. So first up is win. That's very self-explanatory. If I hit you, that means I win. A small win means the move hits grounded, or it leads to a plus on block situation. Lose means either the move whiffs, or it gets blocked and it's a punishable move. The orange box means the move gets blocked, but it's safe. And the last box means that there's too many factors to decide whether it wins or loses. Okay, so we understand what this chart means. Now we just have to simplify it a little bit by choosing our best options. So I decided to color code some complementary follow-ups in green, guaranteed follow-ups in yellow, and heat smash in blue just to make it easier to look at. So we just do some cleanup and get rid of the non-color coded options, and you have yourself a nice, clean, easy to read Okizeme chart. So if I had to pick 3 chain throws worth a damn, it would be these 3 right here. So we're going to be focusing on Arm Breaker, Standing Heel Hold, and the Jaguar Step series. So behold King's Big 3 Chain Throw flowchart. This took months to make, 24 hours to render, but in the end, we are left with this beautiful flowchart. Isn't that sick? Anyways, this is the Arm Breaker series we're going to start with, also known as the Crouch Dash 1+4. If you do it just by itself, it's going to leave the opponent face up, feet toward. The frame advantage here doesn't matter too much, but it's +1. And on break, you're -2. So you do have some options for movement and for mashing if you want to. So I could just mash a dig jab. Or I could do an armor move. The options are yours. You're only -2, so you can move, you can mash, whatever. Now if we get into the execution of the crouch dash, I really recommend holding down forward before you input your move. So in this instance, if you do it fast, the animation looks a little bit awkward, but if you hold down forward, you go a little bit farther, and you end your animation in the crouch state, which is super important for mixing up your throws with other 1+2 throws. So if you look here, with the fast crouch dash, he ends standing, but with the crouch dash holding down forward, he ends in crouch. It's the same throw, but with a lot more of a smoother animation so that you can mix it up with, say, an executioner drop. or something like a muscle buster. Any of these 1+2 throws mix in really well with doing a crouch dash 1+4, so that way it'll give your opponent something else they have to think about. So once you land a arm breaker, you have 3 options to choose from: triple arm breaker, head jammer, and chicken wing face lock. So let's start with the triple arm breaker. +2 on hit, face up, feet towards. It's pretty much very similar to the Okizeme situation that you get from arm breaker. So honestly, the reason why I'm not showing an Okizeme chart for these 2 chain throws is because you don't really get anything out of the specific position. So we're just going to move on to the on-break properties of this chain throw, where you cannot buffer attack inputs on break. So what does that mean? Basically that means that if you try doing a jab or a down forward 2, it'll come out a few frames late, most likely. So to better understand this, we gotta go over Tekken's buffer system. So I took the time and made a little illustration for you guys. This is what a 10 frame jab looks like. The green represents startup frames, the red represents active frames, and the white represents recovery frames. So when you input that jab, it'll go through 9 frames of startup and 1 frame of active, then 18 frames of recovery. So in total, you get about 28 frames, or 29 depending on when you start counting. Who cares? What matters is that during the recovery of your move, you can input something like giant swing and it'll come out frame perfect every time. This is a pretty cool system that allows you to make sure that you're frame perfect after the recovery of your previous move. So then, in an ideal world, when both you and your opponent input a move, they'll be queued up into the next slot, so that way they both come out frame perfect. So in this specific scenario, it should trade, right? Unfortunately, it's not that simple. Now your opponent can buffer the attack input like normal. But with you, that's not going to happen. It's going to reject your input, and then you're going to mash down 1 again, and it's going to come out, but it's going to come out a couple frames late, and you're going to get counter hit for it. So it really sucks for the king player, and I've definitely lost a lot of rounds like this. But it's really important for us to know about this little quirk. I don't even know if it's a glitch or what. At this point, it's been in the game for so long, it might as well be part of the game. And so you can't buffer, but your opponent can. Now, if we go into movement buffering, so say something like a sidestep, king can buffer that input. And so that will come out frame perfect. So if you want to sidestep something like Jin's down forward 1, you're able to do that, frame perfect every time. You just have to buffer in that sidestep during the recovery of the break animation. So this doesn't just apply to triple arm breaker. You cannot buffer attack inputs on break with a lot of chain throws. So you basically have 2 options. You could try to be frame perfect, which I don't recommend, or you could just buffer in movement options like backdash or sidestep or sidewalk and get a whiff from your opponent. So all in all, that's triple arm breaker. It's not the best option for chain grabs, but it's there. It has a purpose, and we could talk about that purpose later. But we're gonna move on to head jammer. This follow-up is a 2 break with a unbreakable follow-up. Just like the triple arm breaker follow-up, once the opponent breaks this throw, you cannot buffer your attack inputs, but he can. It sucks, it's not fair, but it is what it is. So for Okizeme, things are a little different from the last 2 chain throws. We are face up left shoulder. Also, we're +1, but whatever, that doesn't really matter. I'm going to show a quick overhead view of this. By the way, I'm talking about Jin's left shoulder. So here is the first of many Okizeme charts we're going to be looking at today. Wait, hold on. Doesn't Head Jammer have a guaranteed follow-up? Yes, it does, and admittedly, it does a lot more damage than a simple ollie kick. But what if you were to drop the guaranteed follow-up? Or God forbid, you're running out of time. It'd still be good to know your options here. But if you have a sharp eye, you notice that I couldn't find anything that hits an opponent that wants to stand up. Heat Smash almost beats every option except for side roll left. It hits side roll right though. But the main reason I want to show you guys Head Jammer is for this interesting little setup here. If you were to delay your shoulder tackle, and the opponent were to stand up backwards, you would cross over and hit them in the right shoulder. It's important that you delay it because if you don't, they block it. This is because of the interesting position that you are left with after the Head Jammer. You see here, right as I pause it on the hit spark, it's hitting Jin's right shoulder, but only if you delay by holding forward for about 3 frames. If you don't delay the shoulder tackle by 3 frames and you do it on immediate timing, the opponent will be able to block it. So you won't really get much out of that. Unfortunately, it loses to just about everything else, and if the opponent stands up, they're going to be able to block it no matter what. So moving on to Ollie Kick, it only loses to stand up and the toe recovery kick. So if you haven't figured it out by now, the opponent's best option here is just to stand straight up after Head Jammer, and they'll either avoid everything or have a chance to block everything. By the way, if you delay Ollie Kick by just a couple frames, you'll be able to beat the toe kick. Alright, so that's Head Jammer. It's got some interesting options, but even the complementary follow-ups don't complement each other 100% of the way, so we're just gonna move on. Let's look at what happens when we go for the guaranteed follow-up, which is Struggle Combination. Remember, the gray box means it's unbreakable, so they have to eat all this damage. So this is the order here. Arm Breaker into Head Jammer, then he crosses over and completes it with the Struggle Combination. When he steps over, now he's on the face up right shoulder. It's still +1, but we're gonna switch it over to the overhead view again, because something interesting happens now. In the Struggle Combination, King is higher above Jin's waistline than Head Jammer. So that means they're gonna have different get-up animations when waking up backwards. And why is this important? Let me just show you real quick. After Head Jammer, Jin faces King. After Struggle Combination, doing the exact same input, Jin faces away from King. And this applies to stand up too. So with Head Jammer, Jin faces King. And if we were to go to Struggle Combination, Jin faces away from King. With all that in mind, we finally get to Struggle Combination's Okizeme chart. This time we have not 1, but 2 guaranteed follow-ups, Ollie Kick and Generic Down 4. You can see how drastically the Okizeme options change just by a little bit of positioning difference. Alright, so Heat Smash is still too slow to hit an opponent standing up. But if they wake up backwards, you get a free hit. And remember that Heat Smash is hard break floors. It also beats both roll options as well, so this Heat Smash is a guaranteed attempt. If you don't have Heat, then Hop Kick is also a really good option, particularly because it beats stand up. And then we're just gonna mix that up with a ground throw, but only after a micro sidestep left. Now the timing here is really important for that micro sidestep left. Wait, why does that beat a wake up low kick? Alright, buckle up and just bear with me here. So we all know the conventional input for crouch throw is down 1+3 or down 2+4. But did you know that you could also press down back to get the same result? Now, if the opponent is grounded, you could still do a crouch throw with the down 1+3 input. But if you do the down back 1+3 input, you get a ground throw instead. In a face-up, feet-towards situation, this doesn't really amount to much. But if you're on the opponent's side, this will lead to an interesting option select. You will perform a crouch throw if the opponent attempts a wake-up low kick, but if they stay on the ground, King will perform a ground throw instead. The micro sidestep delays the input just enough to make this technique possible. The the sidestep also realigns to catch side roll attempts too, so it's killing two birds with one stone. Now we're moving on to ollie kick and generic down 4, both of which are guaranteed, so that's pretty cool. Okay, we are done with 4 chain throws in 16 minutes. That's kinda crazy. But don't worry, these next couple ones will be a little bit faster. You're gonna see some repeating scenarios that I don't need to explain again, so yeah. I also won't be talking as much. I'm starting to lose my voice here. Okay, chicken wing face lock. This is actually one of the chain throws that I do recommend ending early, and you'll see why. Again, you can't buffer your attack input on break. Womp womp. Okay, pay attention here. Face down, feet towards. This is an incredibly advantageous position for those who love to gamble. Their back is facing you, so getting those back shots in is really easy. Okay, we see that Heat Smash is straight up guaranteed, but for those who want more, there's also the mix-up between elbow impact and ground throw. Whether they stand up backwards or upwards, you are hitting their back and taking them for a ride. And it hits just about every grounded option as well, so. Okay, so we can see here that elbow impact and ground throw both cover every single get-up option, if you think about it that way. It just means that you kinda have to guess right, and so does your opponent. So I'm not putting in a micro sidestep or a micro dash for ground throw because then it won't beat the front roll. But you can see the beauty of just finishing chicken wing face lock and not going for the rest of the chain throws. You are giving up one 50-50 for another, and this one has more reward to it. It's just that guessing wrong might get you launched for it. But if you have heat, definitely go for the guaranteed Heat Smash. Now, if you decide to go for the follow-ups, you have two options here. Dragon Sleeper Finish and the infamous Rolling Death Cradle. You can see the difference in Okizeme and damage. More so the damage. I mean, look at that, 100 damage? But let's start with Dragon Sleeper Finish. Oh, what a shocker. Okay, so the Okizeme situation is face up, feet away. Back in Tekken 7, this was a deadly position to be in if you were the opponent. But with animation changes between 7 and 8, this isn't as threatening anymore. Okay, so here's what I could salvage. Heat Smash loses the side rolls, Shoulder Tackle loses to a lot, but it was one of the only mids I could find that doesn't lose to a get-up attempt. ollie kick is almost guaranteed except against side roll right. Now you probably figured it out by now, but that's where the double ollie kick comes in. For some reason, it beats side roll right. However, there is a huge caveat to this. I didn't want to make a new item for the legend, but even though these hits are guaranteed, the second hit is usually whiffing. So it's going to be one of those things to where you get a guaranteed hit, but you could get launched. So it's only recommended that you do double ollie kick as a round ender. Doing a ground throw with face up, feet away is kind of weird in this situation because sometimes front roll works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on how long you hold down back for, but you still get that option selected with the wake up low kicks. We are done with Dragon Sleeper finish, and now we move on to the final throw in the Arm Breaker series. Ooh, this is the infamous Rolling Death Cradle. Standing at 100 damage, Rolling Death Cradle is the single most feared chain throw in King's arsenal. Just remember that you cannot buffer attack inputs on break, so don't go mashing. You are left in a similar position to Head Jammer, and so when the opponent tries to get up backwards, it'll be the same story. So let's put the line on the screen, and you'll see with the arrow what direction the Jin player will wake up backwards. In fact, the only difference that I could see is that ollie kick beats toe kick. Look, I'm going to flash both of them on the screen. Just like with Head Jammer, after Rolling Death Cradle, stand up is the best option for the opponent. Yeah, so the Okizeme situation isn't the best for King in this scenario, but it makes sense. It keeps things a little bit balanced because of how much damage a Rolling Death Cradle does. So it was definitely a balancing decision by Namco to keep it this way. Let's just be thankful it isn't -10 on a hit. The delayed shoulder tech is back. And yes, it works after Rolling Death Cradle. That's the only really good thing about this Okizeme situation. Ollie kick still doesn't work against stand up, but at least they still have to guess between a mid and low, right? Okay, so we have finished Rolling Death Cradle, and we have gone over every option in the Arm Breaker series. So what do we do with all this information that we just learned? Well, for one, we definitely have a power ranking for all of these different options here, with Triple Arm Breaker being the weakest and Rolling Death Cradle being the strongest. So there are two different types of players, those who know and those who don't know. So in order to find out who's who, we use Rolling Death Cradle as a litmus test. So let's do a visual exercise. The golden mask is you, P1, while the opponent is P2. Now for an opponent that doesn't know, they're just gonna pick any old break while you go for the chicken wing face lock. Then from there, since they still don't know, they're probably going to go one again while you do a Rolling Death Cradle. In a 1-2 setting or a tournament setting, an opponent that doesn't break Rolling Death Cradle right out the gate tells you a lot about how little they know about the matchup. An opponent that does know would right out the gate try to break that chicken wing face lock, thereby locking you out of the 50-50 that comes afterwards. Okay, so this is a really important concept that I'm about to say, so I'm going to put it in writing. Versus someone that you haven't played before, you really want to start with your highest reward option. A player that doesn't know will scramble to find a counterplay, so you got to keep abusing it. But for a player that does know, You could use their knowledge against them. Just think of it this way, the higher the reward, the less likely you are to land it. So if you put the inverse on it, the lower the reward, the more likely you are to land it. So what is the lowest reward option? That's right, it's triple arm breaker. Doesn't do that much damage, the Okizeme sucks. So an opponent that passes the knowledge check is more susceptible to getting hit by a triple arm breaker than rolling death cradle. But let's try the condition, those who know. So you keep abusing your low reward options until you feel your opponent's frustration. Then you're free to make a rolling death cradle read. So what does this look like? Let's go back to this graphic. An opponent that knows is going to go for the chicken wing face lock, so you just go for the triple arm breaker over and over again. Maybe an occasional head jammer here and there, just enough to get the opponent to start wavering. When the opponent has had enough, they'll start to break the option you've been spamming, and that's your cue to switch it up on them with the Brain Destroyer. And once they realize what's happening, they're going to go right back to rolling Death Cradle, in which case you can go for the Dragon Sleeper finish and ruin their day. Okay, I'm done talking about Armbreaker. Let's move on to the Standing Heel Hold series. Okay, so we can see here that the options are a lot more simpler, and so the mix-ups are a bit more straightforward. So just like before, we're going to be starting with the Standing Heel Hold, also known as the Crouch Dash 2+3. Okay, you are -2, but unlike the other chain throws, you can buffer in whatever you want as an attack input. One of the several differences between the Standing Heel Hold series and the Armbreaker series is that the Standing Heel Hold series has a lot of face downs. Okay, let's bring in that equator line, and we're gonna see that Jin wakes up backwards towards his feet. So it's a little bit of a better OP situation as the Armbreaker crouch dash throw, whereas generic down 4 beats almost every option except not doing anything. Now you see that I have the squiggly gray box in the not set category, and that's because this technique does not work against Jin, but if you are playing against a Jack player or a big character, the down 4 will hit them no matter what. After landing the Standing Heel Hold, you are still left with 3 options: S.T.F, Scorpion Deathlock, and Indian Deathlock. Oh, this is the first throw we've encountered where you're -10 and you eat 10 damage. So you better guess right. The Oki situation is face down left side, just like the Standing Heel Hold. Or is it? If we go back to the overhead view, we see that he wakes up towards his head now. So this little minute change in positioning opens up a whole new world of Okizeme for King. Some of this is so crazy, I couldn't even believe it myself. First and foremost, Heat Smash is guaranteed, full stop. Now I will admit, it is basically a just frame to make the side rolls work, but guaranteed is guaranteed. Ollie kick is also guaranteed in this situation. No matter how they get up, they're gonna get hit by it. Now here's where it gets a little weird. Rolling Sabat, with a 1 or 2 frame delay, beats almost everything except not doing anything and standing up. So the only way for the opponent to punish you for doing a rolling Sabat is to just do nothing for a couple frames and then get up kick for a punish. Now admittedly, it is really hard to get that 1 to 2 frame window right. So at worst, you're just gonna miss a couple side rolls every now and then. Now we move on to Scorpion Deathlock. This is a favorite of mine of the standing heel hold series, and you're gonna find out why. Just like with the S.T.F, if the opponent breaks the throw, he leaves you at -10 and with 10 less health. Yet again, this is the third throw in a row that leaves us face down left side. And yet again, it's a completely different situation for Oki. So compared to the S.T.F, King is a little bit closer to the equator, but he is still so that Jin is going to wake up towards his head. So just like before, Heat Smash and Ollie Kick are guaranteed. But with the ground throw, you have to do a micro sidestep right to catch all of the roll options. So, sidewalk, left, forward 2, down 1, 2. What can I say about this war crime? If they get up backwards, you get their back. And if they do a wake up mid kick or low kick, you get their back again. What's really cool about this option in particular is that you don't have to commit to it. You can just confirm that they're not going to get up the way you want to, and just not go for the forward 2. It is technically possible to attempt this with the S.T.F, but I found that it's way less consistent than Scorpion Deathlock. Hey, can I be honest with you? I would skip this. Really, I mean it. Just go for the King's Bridge, man. But in case you drop King's Bridge for some reason, or you run out of time, Ollie Kick, generic down 4, and Heat Smash are guaranteed. Okay, on to the final throw of the standing heel hold series. We got King's Bridge. This is yet another infamous chain throw, but not as bad as rolling Death Cradle, right? But just a reminder, there is no on-break properties for this move because it's unbreakable. So we're presented again with the face down, feet towards Okizeme situation at +0. Now, is this going to be similar to Chicken Wing Face Lock? Almost, yes. However, there is one key difference, and it's that Heat Smash is no longer guaranteed, because for some reason I can't get side roll right to work. To make up for it, Ollie Kick is now fully guaranteed. So I think the reason why King's Bridge and Chicken Wing Face Lock are a little different is because Chicken Wing Face Lock leaves the opponent a little bit farther away to where the Ollie Kick won't be guaranteed against stand up backwards anymore because of the distance problem. See, right there, it barely hits. But with King's Bridge, you are just a little bit closer, so the Ollie Kick will work. But that comes at the cost of Heat Smash losing to side roll right. Alright, that's King's Bridge, and we are done with the standing heel hold series. Now on to the strategy. It's honestly going to be the same as Arm Breaker, with a few more differences. So now we're going to use King's Bridge as a litmus test, and against those who know, we're going to try a mix-up between S.T.F and Scorpion Deathlock. Again, for the ignorant ones, we're just going to keep abusing King's Bridge. The conditioning method here is pretty similar. You're going to keep abusing those low reward options until they've had enough and they change their throw break. However, the main difference compared to Arm Breaker is that King's Bridge does more damage than S.T.F and Scorpion Deathlock, but all three have excellent Okizeme situations. Let's revisit the King masks. You're the gold mask, and the opponent is the silver mask. Just like before, we're going to go for our highest reward option and see if they can break it. So we either get information or a whole lot of damage. We can also see that they only have one chance to break it right. If they don't, then that's the end of the chain throw. A player knowledgeable in the King matchup will know to break Indian Deathlock with 1+2. So that'll give you information about what to do next. You go back and forth between S.T.F and Scorpion Deathlock, just trying to mix them up the best you can. So that way, they get off Indian Deathlock and move on to another break, leaving you with an opportunity to go for the King's Bridge. Ooh boy, this video went on a bit longer than I wanted it to, so I'll have to cut it here. The next chapter is going to go into Mexican Magma Drive, also known as the Jaguar Step series. The The focus on this one is going to be less on Okizeme and more on the conditioning during the chain throw, but that's coming soon. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate the recent support. And don't forget to subscribe, by the way, and follow me on Twitch and Twitter.